Levi Stadium is home to one of the most iconic teams in football, but it's also one of the worst and most dangerous stadiums to attend. It's not even in San Francisco. So how's this even possible? Well, the stadium was built in 2014 as a replacement to the stadium known as Candlestick Park. If you're a 49er fan, you've definitely heard of that stadium. You know, very iconic, very popular in their history. So how did they go from a stadium with such a rich history and loved by fans to one of the worst stadiums in the league nowadays? Well, to understand that, we really have to go back to Candlestick. Candlestick, like I said, was home to the 49ers for decades, but it became too expensive to maintain or even renovate. They couldn't really do much with the stadium at that point. They were sharing it with the Giants for baseball, and they realized they needed to move somewhere else. So if you've looked into stadiums and how they work, you realize the land is very hard to come by because there's a lot of zoning requirements. Things like, you have to have a certain amount of parking. You can't have flashing lights too close to residential houses or anything. So they were having trouble finding land in San Francisco. They ended up settling on land in Santa Clara. It was about an hour away from the city with traffic and everything. So now they weren't even playing in San Francisco. They wanted the San Francisco fans to go all the way to Santa Clara for the games every week, just to, sell out their new stadium. And that was asking a lot. But for what they thought would be an upgraded stadium, the fans were willing to do it, and it ended up not being too much of an issue, but that was the first problem that they had with it. The other problem was that it was originally designed for downtown San Francisco. They didn't change too much of it once they picked the land in Santa Clara. That led to the orientation of the stadium and just the overall design not really being changed. Now that might not seem like a big issue, it's still in California, but the problem was the sun exposure. Now the stadium was built without a roof in Central California now, just because they went down, further south. Fans were sitting in the sun. They were just getting cooked. No shade, no nothing. And you gotta realize they play these games at 1 p.m. Western time. So with no shade, California sun, there was fans getting heat stroke, sunburns, dehydration, and they were constantly complaining from day one. Especially those preseason games in August, and even nowadays, because to this day in 2025 when I'm recording this, they still don't have shade up, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But those August and September games were brutal, so brutal to the fact that they are not allowed to play their week 1 and oftentimes week 2 games in San Francisco. If you're a fan of the team, you know this. Week 1 and week 2 are almost always our away games, just due to it being so hot and no shade that they don't want to put the game in Levi Stadium. They simply just shouldn't. So to combat this, Levi started offering cheaper water. Sometimes I've heard reports of free sunscreen, but the issue still remained. There's no shade, and it was honestly just a miserable experience for these fans. And if it sounds like it's complaining just to complain, just keep this in mind. In 2014, right after the stadium opened, there was a huge influx of emergency calls during a game. There was 60 calls in one day, which is way higher than usual. 2 fans were hospitalized. 1 older man collapsed in section 221. Firefighters were performing CPR for 10 minutes, but he was pronounced dead. The cause was unclear, and to this day it hasn't been revealed, but the heat was a major factor and damaged the stadium's reputation early on, especially with that story. So that sun is the reason why certain tickets that look the exact same as other seats cost more money, because people know if I order this ticket for when the sun is here, when the game starts, then I won't be sitting directly in the sun. I'll have maybe a little bit of shade, or I'll be on the other side of the stadium. Maybe you can find a better seat in that way, and that's where a lot of the value of their seats come from. It's not the fans deciding this seat is closer to the field, or, behind the field goal post, or midfield. No, it's simply, I won't be getting cooked by the sun, which is kind of a sad thing. So why don't they build a roof or anything? It's kind of simple. It's right by an airport. So that land in Santa Clara that they thought would be, better than San Francisco because they couldn't really find much. And I'm sure the California real estate game has to be hard, especially for a big plot of land like that. But it's right by an airport, so they can't build up any higher. They're already at the height limit. Due to the zoning laws, the flashing lights as well, when they play at night, like a primetime game, there's oftentimes complaints from the airport about these flashing lights in the stadium. Yeah, I'm sure like the fireworks shows are limited in some ways. But yeah, there's a lot of problems because of that airport.
I'm not gonna be like the other YouTubers that drag this out. This is a sponsor right here, and it's with SeatGeek. So if you
want to go to any NFL game, NHL game, NBA game, just
because you're watching this video about stadiums anyway, or concert.
If you use code IT'sMason on screen right here, you can get $20 off your purchase of $50 or more.
So use that code to get into these events for cheaper. Thank you for watching.
And when you really think about it, these are 2 of the most strict zoning law properties you can have. I mean, an airport, obviously, an airport's an airport. You can't do a whole lot as far as creativity near an airport. You can't obviously fly drones, everything. But then you also have stadiums. You can't do too much at the stadium because the parking lot and all their zoning laws. So these are two very strict rivalry properties that are constantly clashing with each other in these ways. And to this day, I mean, Levi Stadium just got a renovation. And when it was announced, all the fans were excited. Maybe we're going to get shade. Maybe it's going to make, the viewing experience better in some way, which it kind of did, but it was really just a big screen. So they put a big 4K TV on one side of the stadium, and that's it. They didn't really give any shade, nothing to make it more comfortable for these fans. So that's not really what they're asking for, but I mean, they finally got a renovation of some kind, I guess. Now, there's also a death during construction of this stadium, which I can't really blame the stadium itself. Like, we can blame the stadium for no shade just because that's the way it was designed. But obviously that's sad too. That's a part of their story. When you search up Levi Stadium, I mean, you see the death of the fan right after it opened, and you see the death during construction. So it really made the stadium start off on the wrong foot. So when you have a stadium of one of the greatest teams of all time, and it's known for being an uncomfortable viewing experience, what does the real game look like? Well, these fans will get up constantly and go stand by the concession. Sometimes they're not even, ordering anything. They just want to go buy the AC, or they're getting ice cream, something to cool off. And because of that $200 million renovation of the stadium that finished earlier this year, they get to host the Super Bowl. So the 2025-2026 Super Bowl is going to be in Levi Stadium. Now, that's kind of frustrating because for the fans, I mean, they want shade. They've wanted shade for over a decade now, 11 years. And they've gotten nothing. I mean, cheaper waters is it. So instead of helping those fans, they put a $200 million 4K TV in the stadium. Yes, that helps the viewing experience. Yes, that makes it better. But that's not really what they're asking for. This stadium that's supposed to be more modern than Candlestick is kind of a letdown for them in some ways. Obviously, they're appealing more towards the upper class with that, the people in the suites at the Super Bowl, because they know the Super Bowl is going to be a little cooler. With that big old TV. That's not what most people want, though. So yeah, due to the heat, this is one of the worst stadiums you could possibly attend, maybe alongside the Washington Commanders Stadium, because I heard about that railing falling on Jalen Hurts. And so both of these stadiums are probably the worst. I just think the history to the Levi Stadium is probably more brutal, and the fans just think it's soulless, and you just get baked by the sun. It's not as good as their old stadiums. But if you want more videos like this, comment what team I should do next. I might go through all the NFC West. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Any support's appreciated as far as like or comment, but thank you for watching. I appreciate it. See ya.